Welcome back to my feedback video. Today we have Zyra. Before we talk about the first play, we need to go through the matchup. First, we'll talk about the bot lane. We have MF and Zyra against Jinx and Janna. We're looking at just the early game, and just comparing the early game, MF obviously has better early game than Jinx, because Jinx is like a late game champion. Zyra also have better early game than Janna because Zyra has CC, she has a lot of damage. Volibear versus Kha'Zix. Volibear should win early game. And Heimerdinger versus Diana. Heimerdinger should win because of the turrets, the extra turrets, extra firepower they have. So you can see that your team, because we're talking about Zyra here, your team has 1, 2, 3 advantage against 1 advantage for the enemy team. I'm excluding Kai'Sa because Kai'Sa is currently in top side of the jungle. So this is pretty much 3 advantage against 1. So if a team fight is to happen, a fair 4v4, your team is expected to win. But if we look at the current minimap, we can't see Kled, so it's potentially 5v4. When it becomes 5v4, obviously you're outnumbered, you're expected to lose. And now we need to look at mid and jungle. Your mid and jungle are still back at the base, so this is potentially 5v2. So at this point, even though if you stay here and the enemy comes in, if it's enemy bot duo, you can win this fight because it's 2v2 and you have the advantage. So it's a good play, but even though this is a good play, if we look at the minimap, we can't see enemy team and your team is still back at the base, so it's 5v2, making this a bad play. Why is this a bad play? Well, we need to look at the fog of war. Your vision only covers the river, small part of the river. So, enemy team can invade as a group of 5 through the other entrance, around the blue buff, and right on top of you. When they're this close, you're forced to use your flash, or you'll probably die if they use their skills properly. So, I always recommend playing safely. Just wait for enemy to make the mistake. You don't have to take risks like this. You don't want to start solo rank with a disadvantage right from the start. Enemy team will make the mistake because this is low reeler. Wait for them to make the mistake. Don't take risks. Minimize your risk and just take enemy's mistakes. That is the way to climb easily. So what I normally recommend is to just stand over here. If you stand at the edge of this bush, you can see enemy team entering this bush. Provided that you rush there quickly, right at the start of the game. Otherwise, they can be hiding in this bush, so you won't be able to see them entering this bush, which means you have very slow time to react to it. Obviously, if you're late, you were doing something before while you're waiting for the game to load, which I normally don't recommend. But if that was the case, then you'll have to retreat back into this bush. At least then you have extra distance to prepare yourself. And you also have good escape route towards your turret. So this bush, if you're right on time, you're there right from the start. But this bush, if you're a bit late. However, if your teammate is guarding these 2 locations that I just mentioned, then staying here is a good choice. Another alternative or better choice than this one is to stand at the river. If you stand on this rock, you have vision from this bush and you have an escape route here. And you can also see enemy entering this bush, and you have time to react if they hide inside this bush. So you have the entire entrance covered. And what happens if you have vision through both entrance? You're not going to get invaded, and you won't be forced to use your flash. So always keep that in mind. This is a very common mistake that comes up in all of my video. All low elo players make this mistake. I mean, enemy team invading may happen only in 1 out of 10 games, but you don't want to start with a disadvantage in that one game. Alright, let's continue watching the game. And as you can see, enemy arrived, but they weren't really grouped, so it's not threatening, thankfully. And they're just trying to get in your way. Alright. So, the leash started. This is a good ward because Kha'Zix was saving bot. He can come around for a steal. If he does steal, then it's level 2 against level 1 Volibear, making this fight a disadvantage fight. You'll probably lose. So this is a good ward, but let's look at the timer. It's currently 1 minute 38. And let's see when you leave. So you leave at 1 minute 46. Now let's look at the mini wave. And as you can see, before you even arrived, the mini wave burnt. So you didn't get the EXP. 3 melee minions worth of EXP that you missed out on. This is a huge disadvantage. It's even worse than it's even worse than losing your flash. The reason why is, like I mentioned, MF and Zyra are champions with early advantage compared to Jinx and Janna. However, because you missed out on those 3 melee minions, enemy team will level up before you, your bot duo does. What does this mean? It means you'll have 2 level 2 against 2 level 1s. Obviously, because they have 2 skills compared to your 1, they will win regardless of how you fight. So always leash until 1 minute 37. You don't want to leash past that. As soon as it hits 1 minute 37, you have to return to lane, regardless of the monster's health. Losing your lane priority means it's difficult for your jungler to gank. It's pretty much same as a horrible leash. So always prioritize going to your lane than leashing. So 1 minute 37, don't leash past that. So second wave arrived. So normally you should level up when you kill these 3 extra minions. You can see that even though you arrived late, you're still even in terms of minion wave. That's because your team have the advantage. Had the early game advantage. But now enemy team will level up when they get these 3 minions, whereas your team will need all these 6 minions in order to level up. So even though this looks like your team have the advantage, enemy team still has the advantage. And you can see that when they get these kills, and they should level up when they kill this minion, this one. Yep, and they leveled up. And obviously, you don't want to fight at this point. Enemy team have more minions, and they're higher level than you are. So you stepping forward like this is a really bad move. fast forward just a little bit more. Okay. Now, let's look at this position. As supports, when you're playing in lane, you always have to focus on the minion wave. Early game, minions are practically champions. Their damage may seem like nothing, but because of their numbers, their damage is game changing. So, if we look at the minion wave, you can see that your wave has been wiped out. So what you should do at this point, even though it's level 2 against level 2, is to just simply retreat. Wait for the next mini wave to arrive. You cannot start a fight here. It's fine to activate the plants because the enemy team will get rid of it as they're pushing with the wave, but you have to do that as you're retreating. You can't do it while you're still within minion range. That is why you get poked down pretty badly, like this. Okay, again, now look at your position. Your wave has just been destroyed by the enemy wave. Obviously, if you don't want your wave to be destroyed like this, you have to help your ADC wave clear using your skills, but just don't take the CS, because low elo players get tilted, they'll rage quit just for taking one extra CS. So, you lost your wave, you have to be retreating. But obviously if you retreat after the wave have been burnt, it's too late. So you should already be stepping back here. Now you should be stepping backwards. You don't want to... There's no need to be stepping forward like this. See how you got nothing to do as soon as you get hit? You can't fight back because you know because of the minions you have to be retreating. Okay, now Volibear pinged that he's on his way. Volibear didn't make the best choice here because his skills are on cooldown, as you can see. Probably from getting the scuttle. So he should have just waited in the bush. So that he'll have all his skills back up for the gank. But this is Zyra's feedback, so we'll see what Zyra could have done better. We'll just work with what we have. This is a good dodge, very good dodge. But, okay, this one movement is the game-changing movement. You can see how you step sideways and then backwards. So, you wasted roughly a second of forward movement. So if you didn't waste that time, you will be likely positioned roughly around this minion here. Which means you can use your exhaust onto Janna and result her in slowing down. And if she's slowed down, she'll have to use her flash, which means you can flash after her and use your E for Volibear and MF to easily focus her down. Why should you go for Janna here instead of Jinx? The reason why is because she is closer to both of your carries in this case. She's closer to your teammates. You always want to go for targets that your team can, or you always want to engage onto targets that your team can output damage onto. Obviously, Jinx would have been a better choice if she was within range. So if Jinx and Janna was right next to each other here, Jinx would have been a better choice. But Jinx is a bit far away for the rest of the team to follow up on. So you always just want to go for easy targets. Just take whatever's there. Even if it's a small margin, it's fine. Small advantage and you can snowball resulting in the game being won. And obviously, at this point, with Janna Flash still available, it's very difficult to gank. So you have two choices here. You can just let her walk away and try to force a flash from Jinx by just going after her. But with her current health, she can probably walk away with that one. And the other choice is to just engage onto Janna. Obviously, you have two choices, or two ways of engaging. You can just use your E and hope that it hits Janna, which in that case, you'll save your flash and you'll get the kill. The other one is to flash forward and use your E. Because then if Janna, even if Janna flashes out, she's still within range, so you have the chance to CC onto her. And you used the flash, got it onto Janna, but unfortunately Volibear goes after Jinx. It's understandable because Volibear probably thought that Janna was already too late, so he's already turning on to the next target that your team can cope with. But one auto attack from Volibear would have gone that kill, so a bit unfortunate. But now, funny thing about LoL is that even though it's not, it is practically a turn-based game. Volibear pretty much used his turn. He came for the gank, he's wasted his time, so now he needs to go back to farming. Otherwise, he'll be far behind in the game. So in order to stay in the game, he needs to get back into the jungle. So what this means is that now enemy team has the turn. Enemy Kha'Zix can come bot lane, and Volibear won't be able to react to it because he needs to head back into the jungle. So you need to prepare for Kha'Zix invasion, Kha'Zix gank. So it's good to be going towards the river, but this sword is complete waste. Let's see what vision this ward provides. We need to think from Kha'Zix's point of view. Let's imagine Kha'Zix was somewhere in bot lane. Let's say he was topside at the Raptors. He just cleared the Raptors. And now he's just going to walk into the river. And then what happens? There's a scuttle. So he can't come this way. Alright, so this side is ungankable. Let's say he comes down and then comes back around. And is there anything there to protect you? To provide that information? No. So you pretty much warded where it wasn't needed because there's no way Kha'Zix can approach using this route. You should have warded in this bush here. Obviously, if you can ward a bit deeper, it's better. But with a wave around like this, it's a bit risky without knowing where Kha'Zix is. So just warding this bush would have been way better choice than this one, because this ward provides no information. So you always want to think about what kind of information that ward provides. And as we can see, in a bit of time, and just before we talk about that, you fully shove the wave in, you use your flash, and enemy team is not in good condition. But if we look at the potions and the money we have, it's worth retreating here. You can't just recall. You fully shove the wave in. It's a big wave as well. So if you recall here, you got nothing to lose. But you decide to stay around, and then we'll see what happens. And as you can see, Kha'Zix is here because it's his turn to come for a gank. If Volibear was here and you failed it, it's Kha'Zix's turn. So if you warded in this bush, it would have provided you that information that he was approaching. But because this wave is a big one, it's a bit horrible gank from Kha'Zix. He needed to wait a little bit, but I think from my guess, it's because you were seen going into the river, so he probably assumed that you warded here, which is why he ganked a bit in a rush. But yeah, because it's a poor timed gank, you get away with it. And now you know that Kha'Zix is bot, so you have to play safely. Your Volibear is heading topside, so you always have to be prepared for an extra player for the enemy team. But now, it's been a while and you can't see Janna. She was low on health, so you can assume, make an educated guess that she recalled. This one is a cannon wave, so it's good money for Misfortune. And if she gets it, she will be able to afford the BF sword as well. So it's good time to just quickly shove this wave and recall once again. In what this provides is that you can match enemy Janna's recall. You'll be able to match her items, and you'll be able to easily shove this wave in because it's 2-on-1. Jinx won't be able to step forward, you can easily shove her in. And because it's a cannon wave, she'll be stuck under the turret, resulting in delayed recall. So you have lane advantage when you return to lane. So what you should be doing here is to help MF push this wave quickly. You need to get her to recall so that you can use this current lead, 7 CS lead, or it's 2 CS I guess, because Janna has the relic shield. So you can see how you have your MF have 100 gold lead. You want to use that lead. You want to use it into items and use those items to snowball. So you should be helping MF to wave clear quickly. But because you don't, the next wave arrives and you have to push that next wave before recalling. Alright, so you won your lane, you got the turret, and now you're recalling with 1.7k. I always recommend getting Boots of Mobility first as support, or Boots of Swiftness if you can't afford it. The reason why is if you lost your lane, if you lost it, you won in this case, but if you lost it, it's very difficult to overturn the lane on your own. So you need to help out other teammates, and the best way to do it is with the brutes. Supports are the strongest early game because everyone has similar stats, similar gold, similar level. So your presence alone is enough to overturn a fight. So if you use the extra movement speed to influence other lanes and feed them those kills, who cares if you lost your lane? You fed your other teammates. If you won the lane like this and you got the turret, you can go to other lanes to help push those turrets. Enemy team will need more time to push a wave than you do, as they have longer distance to cover until minions reach the turret. So you can easily influence other lanes. So upgrade boots before upgrading core item. Now, good play here. You got double kill. If you had the boots, you might have been able to save MF, but we'll just work with what we have. Let's think about what you can do here. So what I mean by that is think about what as a team you can achieve, what you can do as a team. First, MF is heading down bot. So it's one-on-one because you can see Jinx here. So heading bot to help her out is a good choice. But then Jinx is already retreating. It's too late to go after her. So you don't need to try and get that kill. Then what other objectives can you take? Is there any reason to go to bot lane? No, there's no objective to take. The closest objective to take right now is the mid turret. Top turret is gone, so the only optimal objective is the turret or the Rift Herald. Obviously, if you're struggling to siege onto this mid turret, going for the Rift is a good choice. You can easily demolish the turret with the Rift. So you have two choices. You can either set up your wards for the Rift, or because MF is heading down bot, you can set up the wards for her. League of Legends is a team game. You can't just focus on your own. You have to work with what you have with your teammates. So let's imagine that we want to ward for MF because you're already at boss side. You have to think from the enemy's point of view. Imagine who is a threat to MF and what kind of moves they can make. You can see Zyra in mid, Kled at top. So the only threats right now is Kha'Zix and Jinx. Jinx backed earlier, but she may still be around. So she is still a threat. So all you can do at the moment is, because you have the ward set up in enemy jungle, you can see enemy jungle approaching MF. The only practical wards that will be useful in this case will be here. The reason why I recommend here is obviously because you have to check all the bush, make sure that Kha'Zix isn't staying around here. And the other one will be ward up here. Now, why do I recommend these two wards? It's pretty much the same as the ward I talked about earlier. You have to remember how I worked the ward with the scuttle. You have to work your ward with the wards you already have. You have wards in the river and in these two routes. So the only route that's available for Kha'Zix is through the raptors and around and through the bush and then into the enemy into the bush over here. So you need a ward up here to prevent that. The other one is just straight down the lane and then into the bush. So those are the two optimal wards that you can do. But if MF is a good player, all she will do is push the next wave and then push that wave and then roam back into mid, because the only objectives that your team can take is the turret and the rift. So for you, provided that MF is a good player, for you, the most optimal wards right now, because you have two wards that you can use, is to set up around the rift. Now, how do you set up a vision around the objective? You don't set up the ward in the actual pit. That provides no information whatsoever. It only tells you if the enemy team is getting that objective or not. You want to know if they're going for it. That's an obvious one. And where they are. So in order to increase the chance of spotting the enemy, you want to ward up and also gain that information whether they're getting the objective or not. You want to ward the route towards that objective. So in this kind of case, you want to ward probably in this bush and this bush here. Then with your team sitting in mid, enemy team have no entrance to the rift. So by setting up these two wards, you can get the free rift without the need or without worrying about enemy team stealing it. And so you come down to check for enemy team. That's a good move, but obviously this ward is complete waste because it doesn't provide any information. And you should already be moving top because MF pushed the wave. So, but then obviously I said MF, if she is a good player, she'll roam back into mid, which she's not doing that at the moment. It's a bit risky because you don't have the wards here. You don't know whether enemy team, enemy jungler is roaming down bot with the rest of the team. So this is a very risky one, and but that doesn't mean you can just ditch her. She's not dead yet, like she's not on the verge of dying. So what you should be doing here is to help Elish to get her out of there ASAP. And you can see how, because no one was guarding Min, your turret is getting sieged on. They have no right to be sieging on this turret. Both of your side lanes are the ones that push the side turrets. So it is your team have the right to group as a 5 and push this turret, or get the rift and push this turret. So Heimerdinger doesn't have the right, but because there's no one there, he is pushing this turret. He's just getting free turret damage. Obviously, because your team, including Diana, pushed the mini wave on the side, so it's your time to punish the kill. Punish Heimerdinger for making this mistake. And as you can see, because you didn't have the ward around the objective, Kha'Zix was getting the rift, which luckily gets spotted by Diana. And you managed to get a kill onto Heimerdinger. So it turns out to be a good play, but if the enemy team didn't make these kind of mistakes, you could have been penalized for your own mistakes, including not warding the objective. So always just think about what you and as a team can do, what objectives you can take. Alright, we'll look at one more play before wrapping up this video. Team fight happens over here. And obviously as Volibear jumped on to both support and AD, while your team focused on Heimerdinger, it's a team fight that you'll easily win. But Volibear makes a mistake of chasing after Jinx, because as soon as you cut these two players off, or cut any two players off, look at the minimap. You have Kled vs Diana topside, and Jinx is running into the turret. Obviously, helping out Diana is the better call. Not because you can save her and get that kill, it's because of Baron. You got two players, so 3 on 2 already, 5 on 3 already. But if you get Kled, that's 5 on 2. It's 100% Baron. If you lose the Baron team fight after getting 3 kills, there's something wrong with your play. Especially obviously if you're not in good condition, it's happens, but everyone is in good condition. So going for Kled and Baron is a better call here. Unfortunately, Volibear and MF make the mistake of going for Jinx, so now they're dragged away from Baron. And what this means is that you take time to get Kled, so it's a bit risky to go for Baron without the jungler there, because Kha'Zix can smite it. There's a good chance of him stealing it. But if you went for Baron, it will still be an understandable call. I wouldn't blame you for going for it. It is still a temptable call. It's a reasonable call. So going for Baron is a good choice. But with now Volibear this far away, we can't get the Baron. When you win a team fight, it's always best to think about, look at the minimap and what objectives that you can take. Obviously, the best objective to take is the Nexus itself, so that you can win the game. The next objective that you can take is Baron and Elder Dragon. Obviously, Elder Dragon isn't up, so Baron is the only one. But Baron has been crossed out because of Volibear's position. Next one will be Dragon or Turrets. There's no Dragon, so you can rule that one out. And then there's Turrets. But in order to get the Turrets, you need the minion wave there to help you out. You do less damage. You do less damage onto the turrets without the minion wave. It's practically impossible to siege on the turrets without the minions. So let's look at top wave. Your wave is pretty far away from the turret, so is your bot lane. So the only reasonable one is mid. So you're making a good call with what you have. You're sieging onto the turret, that's a good call. But we need to look at the minimap again. You got Hourglass at the dragon, so you can see that the dragon is coming up. Obviously, if you're playing this, if you're actually playing the game, in the game you can tab and check for the dragon timer. But from spectator's point of view, you can see the Hourglass. So dragon is coming up, and you can sort of assume that a team fight is going to happen. And as support, you always have to set up your wards before the team fight happens. You need to know where enemy is so that you can sort of see how enemy moves, and if there's a gap, you can strike right through, get that kill. But obviously, because of that team fight, drawn out kills here and there, you do not have any wards. So you need to back to refuel so that you can prepare for dragon. Another big reason why that you have to recall here is because your team won a team fight just then. So if we look at the gold, that's roughly it's like 7,000 gold in your pocket across the team. 7,000. Now if we look at the gold difference, global gold difference, it's only 8k. So you can see that even though KDA wise, your team is in superior lead, but with your gold in your pocket, not in items, it's an even game at the moment. So you have to back and get those items out so that you can win the team fight at the dragon. So you have to make that call to back. So going for Kha'Zix here was horrible decision. You're wasting your time. There's nothing for you to gain here. And as a result, it gets Volibear killed. Now, you may say, oh, but it was Volibear's fault for going for that kill. No, as support, you have to be the tactician of the team. Supports have the privilege of not needing to CS. They have more time to spend on the minimap. they have more time to see how enemy moves, how your team moves. You can process more information. There will be some information that your team missed out on, but as support, you have good chance of knowing those information. So you have to make those calls. You have to ping your team back if it's dangerous. If you have to back as a team, you have to get ready for a team fight. Ping them back. Let them regroup. Let them know that it's dangerous. Obviously, Kai'Sa is recalling a bit late here because, as you can see, it's a gold hourglass already at the dragon. So the dragon is on the verge of spawning. But without Volibear, enemy team have smite advantage. They have a good chance of stealing the dragon. So recalling isn't a bad idea. Unfortunately, you decide not to recall when you should be the first one to recall because of the wards. You decide to stay around. Obviously, if we look at the minimap, I'll try to get rid of those things. If you look at the minimap, it's 3-on-2, just from visible opponents. But they can be nearby, so it can be 3v5. So this is very, very risky position. You have to ping your team back once again. You have to let them know that this is not an ideal position. Because you did not ward around the objective, you do not have that information where the enemy team is. You have to ping them back. So now Kai'Sa is arriving. It's okay to be removing that ward, but then you have to back. You can't be moving forward just like that, just then. Like over here. You have to run because it's 4v5. And then it's good exhaust to save MF. But then, obviously, as you do not have the information where enemy team was, you lose that team fight. The reason why ward is always so important for a team fight is, let's imagine the wards were set up around here, and yeah, just those. Let's just imagine those two wards. Now let's look at the enemy team's position. You can see how, if you had these two wards, you can see Janna entering the river over here, and you can see Kha'Zix and Jinx entering the river over here. You can't see Kled at the moment. You can't see Dingo at the moment. So you can sort of see that until this point, it's 3-on-3. It's even fight. It's a fair fight. So you can stay around. It's a decent call. But then you see Kled coming across. So it's 4v3. It's unfair fight. You will likely lose this. And then you can see the rest of the team is regrouping onto the bottom side of the river. Obviously, if you see this, you will position yourself on the upper side so that you can match the enemy team, but stay out of their engaged distance. Unfortunately, because you didn't have that information, you were too close to the enemy, and you get engaged on. As soon as you get engaged on, there's nothing to disengage you with. Your team is forced to fight this. I guess it's the team comp. In this kind of team comp, as soon as somebody gets engaged, you have to fight. You got no other choice. And if Volibear had that information as well of your wards and knew the enemy team was coming for Dragon, he'll probably have come for Dragon as well. Obviously, it's still a stupid mistake regardless of whether you had that information or not, to be going for top. But it would have increased his chance of coming for the dragon. And MF is not in optimal position because Kled is there, a tank, or a bruiser I should say, but it's a tank in this case because of the items. So she can't use her ult, and Jinx is targeting her down. This side, Diana won Kha'Zix, so now it's split into two fights. Diana and Kai'Sa against Heimerdinger and Janna killing him, or Zyra and MF against Kled and Jinx. Obviously over here, MF will 100% lose. There's nothing else that can happen. But over here, both Diana and Kai'Sa gets airborne because of Janna, and gets knocked back by Janna, and then gets stunned because they're grouped, and gets destroyed. So one Janna good play here pretty much turned this team fight. If the enemy, not the enemy, if Kai'Sa and Diana managed to jump onto Dinger and killed him, this would have been a different result, but unfortunately it happened. But it all started with your wards. If you had that vision, you wouldn't have been engaged on so easily like that, and this would have been a completely different outcome. So always remember to regroup before the objective. About like a minute before the objective, recall, so that there'll be about 30 seconds left when you get there, and then you can set up the wards, and then you have a little bit of time to set up the position. I think that will be all for this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again next time.